India's foreign exchange reserves rose for a third straight week to a record high of 683.99 billion US dollars as of August 30th. The data from the RBI or the Reserve Bank of India showed this on Friday. The reserves rose by $2.3 billion in the reporting week ending 30th August after having risen by a total of 11.6 billion US dollars in the prior 2 weeks. Gold reserves saw a surge of $862 million to $61.86 billion. The RBI monitors the foreign exchange markets and intervenes only to maintain orderly market conditions. And to discuss India's rise in the MSCI emerging markets indices, I'm joined by Professor Manoj Pant, economist and former VC of IIFT. Thank you, Professor Pant, for joining us on the show. First of all, please explain for the layman in very simple terms, what does this development mean?
Well, it may mean something, it may mean nothing. Let me explain.
Okay.
There are two reasons your reserves go up. One is because the RBI buys foreign exchange in order to prevent the rupee from depreciating. Right? So they buy dollars and they sell dollars and they buy rupees to prevent the rupee from depreciating. So that's one reason why reserves change, because the RBI is intervening to protect the currency. The other reason why it comes, which is showing up in the gold reserves, is because there has been an inflow due to the foreign private investors, mainly in the stock market. Now, I'm not too certain, because I don't have further information, whether how much of this change in reserves is a combination of intervention by the RBI. We don't know. RBI does not tell you when it's intervening. Otherwise, the whole idea of secrecy is gone. And how much of it is due to inflow of FPI? I suspect it is probably due to the RBI intervening to maintain the rupee, because they need some pressure on the rupee. Because at the moment, foreign private institutional investors are not really coming into India.
Okay.
So suspect this particular increase is because of government of the RBI intervention to maintain the rupee, which is a standard thing.
Okay. All right. You asked, I actually meant to ask about the development on, India's becoming top weight in the MSCI EMI index, surpassing China for the first time. So what does that...
I don't think that's a different issue.
Yeah.
That's about the market, and that will reflect a little later when foreign institutional investors start investing. That hasn't happened. And the MSCI index is an indicator at a point of time. The effect will come after a couple of weeks, not immediately.
Okay.
So this is not a reflection of the fact that suddenly India has become a very powerful economy, which it has. But this is not a reflection of that.
Okay. But what is the advice then you have for the small investors? How should this... What advice would you have for the small investors? Should they be upbeat about this development? Is it good news or is it bad news for Indian equities?
No. It's neither good news nor bad news. Never look at foreign exchange reserve data.
Professor, I'm not asking about the foreign reserve data. My question is on India becoming on the MSCI EMI index.
No, there I would be very positive for all investors. There were two reasons. One, the Chinese stocks are going down, and therefore international portfolio investors are going to be investing all over the world, and therefore India is very underweighted. So there will be a shift towards India to maintain the average weightage of international portfolios. That's one reason. And secondly, there is no doubt that within the coming weeks, months, certainly if not weeks, the Federal Reserve of the US is going to reduce the interest rate. That will also induce some private portfolio investors to get into India. So for the market, I would say very upbeat.
Okay. So would you advise, say, the small investor to, throw caution to the winds and go into investing, or would you tell them to be cautious?
No. Be very careful. I'll be very honest. Be careful of the very small, what you call penny stocks which are being floated. You heard the reserves stories about some guy opened a shop and is, his IPOs or subscribe. Don't do that. I would still say go with proven companies.
Okay.
Either go with mutual funds which do it, or don't think that this means everything is going to go up in the air.
Okay.
Because that go up in the air, come
All
down
right.
very fast.
Okay. What would you ascribe the reasons for this development?
See, it's very simple. There are only two economies which got the numbers in terms of consumers. One is the USA, the other is India. There is no one else. The demographics
China, of course,
China
gone
is
down a bit.
declining. China is going down. Now China's demand is going down. And China is going to go through structural adjustment for some period of time. It's also having political issues with the US, which will also stay for some time. So the next 2-3 years, at least certainly the next year, doesn't look great for China. In terms of going further from where they are, they're already at a very high level. So when there's a shift of movement, the only other place can shift to is India, but there's only so many. It's the only other one which has equal number of consumers. So therefore, I'm quite gung-ho on the Indian economy. It's just question is, are we are in the right place, we are at the right time, but have we been able to take the right steps to make use of this?
But does say political stability or the role of government policies, the macroeconomic environment, does that play a role?
100%. In fact, there I will say, apart from what other people may say, the interesting thing is not a question of this government there, that government. There's a continuity of policies. Policies never reverse in India when, either the left are in power, the Congress or the BJP. Policies don't reverse. Whereas in China and these kind of countries, policy can reverse overnight. So India, the good thing is, that's the whole point of a democracy. We move forward, but when we move forward, we don't go backwards.
Okay.
So it's the hope as far as the world is concerned. As a consuming place.
Okay. Sir, the Morgan Stanley report also says they are cautioning that a correction in the Indian stock market may be on the horizon, driven by investor concerns and market dynamics. How should we view that caution?
I think we should ignore that caution. Morgan Stanley is not, as people may think, not always right. In fact, as I know, Morgan Stanley is trying to go overweight on the Indian stocks. So that's not true. See, there are two things which drive an economy. One is the multinationals who are coming here to do business.
Right.
That's a slow process, and that will depend on how will they think we are positioning ourselves to replace China in the China plus one story. Then there's the stock market, which is a function of international portfolio diversification. That may have nothing to do with the growth of the Indian economy, merely because India is a good place to be, and the Indian stocks are underweighted compared to China. And so there's a shift from China to weightage of more Indian stocks. So some portfolio investors will reroute their investment into India. So there are two different things.
Okay. And, this change is also driven by the inclusion of small cap stocks in the MSCI, EMI, IMI, where India understandably holds a stronger position, isn't it?
The small IPOs are the ones which worry me most.
Okay.
Because the Indian stock market is suddenly becoming mature. More and more of fairly average middle class investors are now going to stock market. Housewives, the SEBI has done a great job of spreading the message of the stock market. Everyone's getting stock market. But there's a very unfortunate feeling in stock market, in investors. If it's a 10 rupee stock, it's not very expensive, therefore let's buy it. But they forget that 10 rupee can become 1 rupee very quickly. So don't go by the price of the stock. Go by the company and be certain that the company looks reasonably secure. Otherwise, you're okay. But never go by the small stocks.
Okay. So does this development indicate that foreign investors might want to come in very quickly into the Indian equity market?
I think so. I think minute the Fed announces rate cut, very soon you'll see much more portfolio investment. Not because India has suddenly become important, but because it has not got enough weightage yet in the stocks.
Okay.
You have to weight stocks so much the weightage of China is still 22%. Still up well, but it is not going up. So new investors look for something new and therefore they increase the weightage of India and stocks would come. FPI flows come to India.
Okay. We leave it there, Professor Manoj Pant. Thank you very much for joining us on the show and lending us your insights. Thank you.